Legislative Commissioners meeting to order on September 16, 2019 at 7 o'clock. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Vice President Jones, present. Commissioner Williams,
Present.
Commissioner Dara,
Present.
Commissioner Duplaga,
Present.
Commissioner Richard,
Present.
Solicitor Lovato.
Present.
As everyone knows, these meetings are recorded. People can be watching live and can watch whenever they want in the future. I hear a motion.
There's no motion. It's going to be next
Oh,
month.
sorry. Got it.
We don't have any minutes to
Got it.
review.
Chief Haney.
Good evening. All right, we'll jump on. Good evening, everyone. So for the month of August, we had a total of 86 calls. 32 of those were medical assists. 36 of those were traffic citations. We upped the citations from normal, enforcing all around the area. So please slow down out there. The rest are just normal calls that can be located on the Aleppo Township's website. On the police blotter, it's always a good thing to check up. It's updated weekly. Last but not least, I always like to touch upon it because we've had a few incidents to include in Aleppo Township is fraud. If you should receive a phone call, email, or a letter in the mail, no federal agency is going to want Target gift cards, Home Depot gift cards, or any type of gift card whatsoever for payment regarding anything that you might owe the federal government. It is quite the lucrative business that people are getting scammed out of, and it's a constant thing that we battle. Once gift cards are purchased, they get the numbers are given via phone or email or however, and once that happens, it's virtually cannot be traced. It goes overseas. So, please put out the word to everyone. If there's a lot of different scams out there, they can be located on the internet, on various FBI sites, state police sites, referencing fraud things. Educate yourself, but no agency in the United States government wants paid by gift cards. So please do not do that. Contact 911, contact the police if you even have a suspicion thereof. We'll be more than happy to assist you through it. Any questions for me? Any issues? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Have some folks lost money?
They have, unfortunately. We do our best always to investigate them, but these people are pretty good at what they do, and a lot of the stuff cannot be traced. And when we do trace it, it comes back to a different country, and there's literally nothing that we can do about it.
And we have one issue. Commissioner Dara, do you think this would be a good time to discuss noise?
Well, at least find out what role your department will play in terms of enforcing our noise ordinance. We've had complaints about the noise from the trucks, the backup beepers, and using the key fobs for finding the drivers finding the vehicle or to be driving that day. They do it 24/7, and so there's a complaint about those noises. We have a noise ordinance that's part of our zoning code, but
So as far as the idling is concerned, I did address that from the complaint from last meeting. I forwarded that complaint on to the township manager. If it hasn't made it to you yet, I can forward it again. We've contacted all the agencies that have diesel trucks located in and around this area, to include the major business across the street and others. One specific business that was mentioned, they do not have diesel engines, they have gas engines, therefore the ordinance does not apply to them. The other ones, the lot across from here with the white trucks, that was addressed with the company, and the company informed us that they would actually be moving those trucks here within the next week or two anyways to a different site, so they should be out of there. But nonetheless, they were advised of it. And of course, the large big company across the street from here, the manager, literally as our officer just walked in, they just had a safety briefing with the drivers, reinforcing on the chalkboard was no idling. So they're addressing it. Our officer addressed it with them again. to ensure that they have a copy of the local, it's actually the state or a state law regarding idling of diesel vehicles. It was given to all the companies that he spoke with. Last and foremost, we did make mention about using the clickers. However, we could readdress that if it's still an ongoing thing within the last week or so.
How about the backup beepers?
On the trucks.
That's a safety feature. I'd have to take a closer look at the Aleppo Township noise ordinance specifically to see if that would cover something like that. However, I doubt that it would, as they are safety feeters on vehicles.
You have
And it's
the,
a very,
It's very, very short, but here's the ordinance if you
want
want
to. I think it's
Yeah.
like 11 o'clock or something, like certain decibel.
For my review of it, I think the alarm system would be an issue that could be addressed, whether the safety features of federal regulation that preempts our ordinance, that's probably the case.
I would think so. Depending on the types of vehicles that we're discussing, they're built-in backup alarm kind of things, and company guidelines, federal guidelines, state guidelines for those kind of things would supersede any kind of ordinance that you could put in place. Again, reinforcing the idling was discussed with all those companies. So if that is a continuing thing within the last, last week and a half, 2 weeks, I forget exactly when the officer went and spoke with them. But it can be addressed time and time again. We can start enforcing it. But everyone we spoke to seemed very attuned to the state law and wanting to fix it.
the current complaint, the one that came in this past week, was noise specific to the beepers and to the key fobs, not related to the idling itself.
Again, we're only speaking directly about the company across the street. Am I to clarify that over in their parking lot down here? Okay, so again, that is something that we can address with the manager over there. He seemed very receptive when we walked in the last several times and have a working relationship. We can discuss that. I don't know if we can put a stop to that, as I'm not sure of how they're set
The
up.
complaint comes from a non-resident. We're trying to be good neighbors.
Sure, I understand. Well, let me look into it a little bit further, and I'll email the township manager with an update with it. Give me a little bit of time with it. We'll readdress it with the manager, see if there's a workaround to that. But we'll see what we can do.
Well, you kind of reinforced my understanding that when you have gone to Amazon, they have been receptive.
Absolutely.
So I think
Absolutely.
continuing that relationship is the best way to start.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I'm not praising them by any means, but I mean, I've seen they have meetings with their drivers often, and they usually discuss about the speeding, safety, they know they have to come in and out of here 100 times a day. So, I mean, they reinforce that to their drivers that come in and out of here. I do know that for a fact. So, anything we pass along to them will be addressed in the next regular scheduled drivers meeting that they do. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Did you find any case law that addresses either of those?
Either of.
Another situation where backup beepers and fobs?
I did general research, and it seems that this isn't not unique to Aleppo. It's an issue all over the country, and because it's federally mandated, there's not much you can do about the actual
The backup.
The backup. As I read our ordinance, I wouldn't see anything that would make it permissible just to turn on your car alarm to find your car on a repeated basis. I think that would be something that could be addressed. I mean, a one-off, you're not necessarily going to address it, but if it's a constant problem, it's something that should be addressed.
Do you agree that perhaps the first best step is for us to simply write a letter in cooperation with the police?
Yes.
Good. All right, fire, I suspect we have nothing. Emergency management, I don't see that. Public Works, Ben, do you have any report on roads?
Rhodes Avenue, Township forced to start work on that last week. They had opened the road up and found that appeared to be a previous repair was completed. excavation of soil material and replaced with a 2B stone, so about the size of your thumb stone. Excavating that, they found water in the ground, soft conditions. I had sent someone out, I wasn't available that day, but sent another senior engineer out to take a look at it. The township was proposing to excavate that stone out, install a deeper subsurface drain to try to capture that water, build it up with a larger ASHTO baseball-sized stone, ASHTO number 1, with fabric, and then complete our proposed fix of fabric, a 2A subsurface stone, and then pavement. I visited the site before I came here today. It looks like they're up to within about a foot of the section. I'm hoping that the next day or so they should have that about sealed up. So they installed 200 drains, a deep one to capture that water that was exposed and get it out of the system, and then a shallow one, as we originally discussed, that anything closer to the surface could be conveyed out through a pipe instead of through the soil to try to dry that up. So that's the status that I have at this point.
Any issues that you think we need to address?
With the work that's being done currently, no.
Good. All right.
Do you want me to?
Let's do the easy one first. Do I hear a motion to approve final payment to Maley and Maley?
Yes. So moved.
Second.
Dave, do you have that motion?
Typing it.
I did have one question on that. We had a spring issue that was related to Super Edge Drive. Will we discuss that here or not?
I'm sorry?
Regarding the Swiggly Heights Drive improvements, we had an issue where we were going to revisit an issue with the spring.
Sure, I can address that.
Yes.
At the completion of last year's paving season, there was a spring, thought to be due to high groundwater because it was a very wet year. Given the time of year, we had determined to kind of put it on a monitor and re-inspect this year. We took a look at it in the spring, we took a look at it again a couple weeks ago. No visible issues of that water issue, no visible issues in the pavement of any damage to the pavement, so it seems to be holding up and working fine, so.
Okay. Sorry.
Yes.
Go ahead, George, sorry.
No, that's fine. So you're approving the final payment?
Yes.
Second.
So any further, okay, second, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Then, do I hear a motion to proceed with the hydraulic study?
The motion's been made, we just need to vote on it.
Okay.
This is for the 3 borings?
Yeah, 3 borings.
All right, is there any further discussion on the previous motion to do 3 borings?
Has your viewpoint changed
No.
at all?
No.
If no further comments, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So Dave, that's, you can't hear me. All right, is there any further discussion of the Deer Run Road drainage issue at this point?
Updates. We received one quote to do long-term traffic control. The quote came from a company that this is all they do. The way the quote came in was more conducive to submitting to a general larger contractor. You know, some of the exclusions were contractors forced to be responsible for covering and uncovering the signs as need be, traffic control to set it up, things that the township may not necessarily be involved in. The cost was relatively affordable, I thought, 60-day lump sum fee of $500. But given some of the insurance requirements that they were asking for, I'd like to run it through the solicitor just to make sure that it protects the township. We also received video from the township to look at the condition of the pipe. It's not in good shape. We reached out to Insight Pipe to have their experts look at it to see if they thought it was in a condition to line it. Being 36-inch pipe, they have lined pipes that big, but also to get a cost to see what that would be. It may be cheaper to dig it up. Probably would like permission to go get a quote or two from a contractor to maybe replace it, so we can compare apples to apples and come back to you here quickly with some real numbers so we can move on it, so it can get repaired quickly. We'd also like to have a discussion with the solicitor to see if they deem it an emergency repair, so we can do it via quotes instead of a full bid package. But once we know a little bit better about the overall cost, we'll see if we're over the quote limit. My gut tells me we probably are over the 18,000 and change quote limit. But being that it's on the side of the road and impacting potentially the pump station, maybe an emergency repair. So I'd like to come back to you with some real numbers and take it from there.
Can you fully define the problem now?
The problem right now is it is a metal pipe of unknown age, probably 70s, 80s vintage, that has deteriorated to the point where the water is no longer being carried in the pipe, it is getting outside of the pipe. I believe there's one section that is a collapse, allowing the water to come out the outside of the pipe, and instead of running through it, it's running around it, washing all of the bedding away from it, so it made a cavern around the pipe, which is causing all the material that was above it to collapse and then wash away. So if you drive past the road, you'll see the trench that basically happened from the underside. The pipe does go underneath the access road to the sewage pump station, which potentially you could lose it. There's also some other utilities, power to the pump station, as well as the sewer main that crosses Deer Run Road into the pump station, which I believe the authority is looking at trying to shore up via trenchless technology, just to make sure that that is less impacted by this. But that's kind of the summary. It's roughly 50 to 75 feet, depending on how you connect it. I think it's a twofold process. How do we shore up the immediate failure? And then also look at the other sections to possibly rehab this so you're not chasing this every year. Because the pipe is, of the same age, it's going to start to deteriorate evenly. So there's probably other bad sections throughout.
Do we have any idea of the length of what might be involved for the entire line?
It roughly goes from School Street, I'll say up towards the industrial park. I don't have the exact length, but that's the sense we had when we field viewed it.
Are there environmental issues you think associated with this?
Other than erosive soil, no. I think it's just, erosive soil, and it's next to the state route and a pump station, so.
So I guess my question is, do you have enough information to effectively go out and talk about repairs, fixes?
I think we could approach 3 contractors that have either we worked with or worked here to get an estimate as to pricing to fix it. Availability of those contractors is a little bit of a concern given the construction season, the time of year, and the wet spring we've had, but I don't know if this is one of those that can wait till next spring, so it's probably a fix it this fall yet.
And so you're looking for authorization from us to do specifically?
Probably would make sense to do limited survey given the close proximity of the utilities, so we know where those are and can identify them. Do a sketch plan as to the limits of work, to work up some quantities to do an estimate.
Could we do this proposal based on the whole pipe versus just the portion that's affected, or just to get an idea? I mean, we're doing this.
I think we should probably focus on the area that's damaged immediately,
Okay.
and then we could issue a different proposal because it won't be as rushed.
Okay.
Okay, do I hear a motion to authorize HRG to go forward with?
I move that HRG solicit bids for the repair of the damaged line in the area that's affected.
Should be quotes instead of bids.
Quotes, sorry.
Second.
Any further discussion?
What about for the immediate safety of the area? Does that need to be?
That is why we
Involved
were
in the
looking to
measure.
hire a firm that, a company that does specific traffic control, so it was set up. And again, I think once we worked through the solicitor, that cost was $500, well under the limit, so I think that's one that we can just procure.
Yeah, I think the solicitor's probably not gonna give the opinion as to whether it's an emergency. If you believe it's an
Okay.
emergency, then,
I think this is the way to go. Now, we'll confirm that with Harlan, but as I read the law, if the health, safety, welfare of the public is in jeopardy and the bidding process is going to take too long, then I think it's appropriate, so long as we indicate that in the file.
Yeah, I would think losing power to the pump station alone.
Right.
And there's
Yeah.
a large open
Yeah.
trench next to a county road.
surprised how
I think
big
it
it
was
was.
there. I have no problem saying that.
Sure.
So,
All right.
again, I always like to be on the same team as the solicitor.
I'll confirm that with Harley, but that's my read of the emergency, and if that's your opinion, then I think that's appropriate.
So,
So I was reading back here. Maybe we should refine that a little bit.
Yeah.
For the Deer Run Road training issue instead of line.
Oh, for repair the pipe?
Yeah.
But I wanted to start with doing a survey, use basis.
He can't hear us.
Oh.
We should begin with doing a survey to define the limits of where the work will be conducted.
Okay.
And kind of proceed with quotes for the repair of the line.
To determine the, what, extent?
Well, the extent, yeah, to substantiate the condition of the pipe, water outside the pipe, bad sections of the pipe, and putting some important,
Ben, just tell us when you're satisfied.
maybe throw in there the section to be completed under emergency repair. And then that'll limit it to just the exposed piece.
To be completed or repaired?
To be
As an emergency repair.
completed as part of an emergency repair. That'll allow us to evaluate the remainder of that on a less critical path to allow you guys to budget and/or seek other funding to fix that. If the other pieces are still sound, we may be able to do some other repair that would require digging it up or some other approach that may be more cost effective. But let's fix the bad section right now before it gets worse.
Any other change, Ben?
I think that'll work.
All right, was there a second?
second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Anything else, Ben?
Discussion on the emergency exit from Swickley Heights Manor. HRG prepared easement exhibits, currently being reviewed by the solicitor. He got them late this afternoon. But those will be used to obtain, potentially obtain access from Weber Road to Swickley Heights Manor. One of the couple of the parcels up there were so old in survey that we actually had to go to the county to find them. So that was part of the delay, but, shorter review, I think the township will be in a position to start approaching property owners to discuss obtaining
Swickley Heights
easements.
Manor plus 3,
5,
5.
Oh, wow.
We obviously have the names.
yes.
And Gwen will have the names.
Yes, it's all on the exhibit, each individual easement exhibit for each property and an overall exhibit to show how they tie together.
Good. Anything else not on the agenda, Ben?
That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Communications, I guess the only communication we received was from a resident of Swickley Heights regarding the noise that we discussed earlier with Chief. Planning and zoning?
We have an upcoming meeting in October for hopefully the completion of the ASO comprehensive plan, which is the joint plan between Aleppo, Swifty, and Osborne, under the municipal planning code, which will allow for us to share various land uses as well as collaborate on any kind of future land use planning that would be a regional thing. That is it for now. That meeting's in October, and we're hoping to have some people attend. I invited Amy to attend. Gwen is going. I don't know if I can go or not. I'm gonna look and see if there's a conflict and a potential conflict. Let me try and make it.
Okay, and I think you have something else to add when we get to priority budget 2020. We have no tax collector or treasurer report. We will catch up on that next month. For anyone that's interested, the 218 audit is complete, if you want to review that. And I think budget discussions will commence about the middle of October. Do I hear a motion to approve the August bill list?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I thought when we made those motions, we had to actually recite the number, the dollar number.
Art, would you read it as it is?
Is this the motion? This one. The motion to approve the August bill list in the amount of $33,341.84, to ratify August prepaid bills in the amount of $90,789.87, and to ratify August payroll transfer in the amount of $16,427.48.
Second.
Dave, it's just exactly as it's stated on the agenda.
Yep.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Aleppo Township Authority,
No report.
Quaker Valley Ambulance Authority, Quaker Valley COG.
No report. Well, they're having, let me back up. They are getting involved in the 65 corridor project now. And the last meeting, they had two gentlemen coming up who work for CMU and do a lot of good consulting as to how the 65 corridor is going to affect various municipalities going down adjacent to 65. And they kept repeating, this is very, very, very early on in the study, but it is initiated. I think that it's something that if it's brought to fruition, I think that it would have a very positive impact on the entire corridor.
Would you like a little background on that?
Yeah, could help you.
Art, you want to give her?
The 65 corridor, I don't know who initiated, but it's at the state level. And there's such a disparity of development along in the municipalities coming up the adjacent to the road, and they also have the railroad tracks that run adjacent to 65, and some houses on the other side adjacent to the river. And so they're trying to bring that into the development from a standpoint of traffic flow, lights, signage, quite a number of issues. And it's a massive project, and I think it'll take a little while to even get a preliminary plan, let alone a comprehensive plan. But personal standpoint, I'm very much in favor of it. I think it'll have long-term and positive impact, particularly with, you have the track at one end of the corridor, and we're sitting up close to the city, which is the end of the corridor. And they had just finished doing the same type of analysis and construction projects on Route 51, which has changed that road quite a bit.
Art, did that involve no widening though, just beautification, connectivity, pedestrian crossings?
No, I think it goes a little bit beyond beautification. They're trying to make sure that they don't build things in such a manner that you take the people from the Bellevue and so on and so forth and try to make them corridor people out of 65. That's not going to happen, and they don't want the 65 to go up and erode their lifestyle. So it's an interesting and comprehensive thought process, but I don't think that it's anywhere near at this time to be answering a truthful question like that. It's just way too early.
What groups are working with them? The QV cog, but who, I mean, if it's a larger,
The QV cog is sort of acting as a champion for this.
okay,
Because they represent all 14 municipalities. And of course, the COG has had its own growing pains in the past few years. So I think that from a standpoint of the COG, it's going to give them something to rally around.
Yeah, my concerns are mainly safety and connectivity. I really don't think widening should be an issue, but I think there's always been a safety issue on 65.
Well, I know one of the,
Connectivity with the neighborhoods on both sides of it.
I know one of the issues from an emergency management standpoint. We've all experienced the traffic on the railroad going down along from Aleppo County all the way out, and it has it's a steady flow. They have forecasted right now that the flow that are from, not necessarily from the cracker plant, but from the clusters of businesses that are going to be around the cracker plant to support the cracker plant. It happens. And that will increase the railroad traffic substantially, and it will increase it with products that we have to think through very, very carefully.
Which Judy raised in our last meeting about the cars that'll be coming through carrying stuff that's more explosive and up.
Yeah, I mean, we've always, for years and years, had the potential of having one of the cars have an accident and emit fumes that would settle without wind, and if the wind came along, it would blanket the whole area. So that's what has to be thought through.
One very quick one. Do you know who signed up to go to the COG dinner aside from you?
I think Art did.
I'm
right?
going.
yeah, myself also.
Yeah.
You're going also?
Yep.
Good. So I think it'd be good to become familiar with the COG.
Certainly.
All right. Anything else about the COG?
No.
Solicitor?
Nothing additional.
New business. I don't recall whether we made that motion or, did we make that motion?
What?
For the pension.
We didn't do that.
No, we didn't.
All right, so would somebody like to put forth that motion?
I move to accept the 2020 police pension MMO of $0. And the
We owe nothing.
And the 2020 non-uniform pension MMO of $14,190.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okey doke. So as I said, the budget process will start within the month, and I don't know exactly where this came from, but I think you have some priorities you would like to discuss.
Well, one of the things was completing, hopefully by the end of this year, our comp plan, and thereby next year, hopefully if we can fit it in the budget, revising our zoning.
Is that an across-the-board revision or just certain sections?
I think we should have someone look across anything related to housing and infrastructure to accommodate new housing. I believe we have our existing regulations are old. I don't think they accommodate growth in a manner that is consistent with our surrounding municipalities, and just exacerbate urban sprawl or lead to, land escalating in our township, becoming eventually very expensive to build here or to stay here, leading eventually to displacement of older residents, new residents, young residents, next generation. So I think we have opportunities in our zoning code to relax some of our setbacks, to allow for additional single-family housing on existing lots. Should someone sell, they could build maybe 2 homes on that lot once it's sold versus one lot taking up a huge tract of land, an acre, that is unnecessary. That is my view on it. So I would like to see a revision of our zoning code that also includes community participation, where we get our residents to come in and comment and come to a decision on where we can add housing, where maybe we shouldn't, and try and keep the character of the community with install our growth.
Would you have the time and inclination to write that?
Okay.
Which I think would be beneficial. That was
Yeah.
a long sentence, it's a good sentence. Then Gwen and you can work on it a little bit. Because it's something that's been on your mind, right?
I just want Aleppo to continue to be welcoming to new residents.
No, that's good.
As well as existing residents, and I think the way the cost of land is,
Good,
there's not enough housing supply.
Would you
out there,
please
so
do
I
that?
think we should address this. Yep.
thank you. Are there any other priorities that pop to the front of people's minds?
I guess most of the people are now aware of the repairs that are going to be done to the Sewickley Bridge. Aware of that? Am I? That will be a project that's going to be completed next year, 2020, and will take, I think will be probably 4 months, but it'll be stretched out longer because it'll be do this part, do that part. The major part will be repairing the expansion joints on each end of the bridge. They have deteriorated, ice is getting in there. It's only going to get worse. The rest of the expansion joints seem to be okay as far as DAW is concerned. And then they think that the bridge will be completely closed no longer than 2 to 3 days, and that will be primarily for the paving. Other than that, there will always be a single lane.
I'm not forgetting. Any citizen participation? Yes, Don, could you come to the podium and introduce yourself?
I got notes.
Wow.
Wow.
Good evening, I'm Don Black from Weber Road. I'd like to share a few of my thoughts regarding transparency and further improving communication between our local government and the residents. But first, let me preface my comments by saying I sincerely appreciate the Commissioner's time and dedication. I recognize personal sacrifices are made in order for you to serve our community. I really do. Please accept my comments in the spirit in which they are intended. Sorry, I can't see. I just had surgery. Cataracts. All right. I attend meetings to become informed and be involved. When unable to attend, I religiously view the YouTube version. YouTube is a great way to stay informed and keep up to date. Frankly, I hear Commissioners' comments much better at home than watching on YouTube than when in attendance, which I was wondering, do these speakers even work? Because I can't hear. That's not what I'm here for, though. Recently, a couple of incidents have occurred, and I'm reaching out to you to see if we can have further communications. On August 9th, there was a red helicopter hovering exceptionally low for a significant length of time. Usually, this is done for search or rescue. If searching, should we have been alarmed, would we have been told to shelter in place? I was told some neighborhood children were afraid to go outdoors. It turned out the chopper was distributing packets to control wildlife. And if that's the case, should we have been concerned if children or our pets are out and came in contact with these packets? could this activity, type of activity be posted on a website or at least presented at the meeting so we kind of know what's going on? That was kind of scary. My next one is communications. I noticed tonight George read communications, but recently I've seen that emails have not been being read. And I know there were a couple written. I thought it was a great way for people who can't attend to attend a meeting, to be able to participate and have their voice heard. And it looked like it had been discontinued, but I see you're going to continue.
Do you know
to do
when
that?
the emails that are missing in action were sent?
Do I know?
Yeah,
I could look. One was for me and one was for my wife.
that's fine. Are you sending them to Gwen?
No, you responded.
Well, they were going
Yeah.
they were going to Matt.
Oh, okay,
No.
so you would prefer that even after a response, they be read into the record?
Well,
That's fine.
it was just, you were the only one, and you responded to them, which we
Yeah.
appreciate.
Okay,
That's the way it was in the past.
Right.
If you want to discontinue it for whatever reason.
No,
We're
there's
just trying
no-
to share our,
there's no intent to discontinue.
Right.
We had asked that the communications now go to Gwen since Matt left, which is fine.
I missed that.
And then if what you're saying is even after they're internally answered, you'd like them read into the public record, we can certainly do that.
So maybe unless the writer asks you not to, I don't know. I mean,
Unless the writer asks us not to.
yeah. But like, I thought there were a couple of good points that we made that could have been shared that somebody else might have cared about.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's the way I feel.
No, I think that's a good comment.
That's what
Okay.
communications are all about.
Okay. Now, let's see again.
So,
Like,
Don, will you make sure that when you send them to Gwen?
yeah, I didn't know that.
No,
I think it would be wise,
Pardon?
I think it would be wise to ask anyone that is sending a communication in to Gwen should also copy
Copy
George.
George.
Yes.
I'll copy you all if you want to.
Doesn't
Do
cost
you
anyone.
have anything that you sent an email that you'd like to raise right now?
Yeah.
Okay,
One was about the gas lines coming through,
okay.
that my wife wrote to George.
yeah,
One was about the traffic and I think it was around the time the chief had the speed monitor up, so
The speeding?
we just wanted to comment on it, yeah. But I don't think any of it's pertinent now. The gas lines, we didn't know about the gas lines. There's a lot of people upset about the gas lines. They just showed up and started taking over, you know, on Weber Road.
mm-hmm.
Isn't Columbia supposed to notify people?
Talking
Oh, I was asking the commission, isn't Columbia supposed to send a notice out to residents if they're gonna be digging? Is that up to us? I thought it was up to them.
I don't know.
Well, I
I
think
would
it should be their
assume it's up
responsibility.
to
since-
Columbia, yeah.
At some point, did they have to put in for a permit to dig the streets up, or they just show up and
They
dig
probably
away?
already have an existing easement to do the work,
Existing easement,
yeah.
so they don't have to tell us?
Don, we were advised on Friday before Monday,
Yeah.
and there was actually a discussion about where to set up shop, and they actually ignored us. So we knew one day before.
You never knew. They have just an ongoing right to just come and dig, is that what you're?
Well, if they're replacing line, they would have had an easement to put the original line in. And that easement probably runs for as long as they're using it, which is nearly in perpetuity.
And they're installing new lines? That can just come along? and- is
Correct
that-
me if I'm wrong, we just created an open streets ordinance last year, Chris. I mean, don't they have to notify us? when they're-
I'll have to look at that specifically. I think
We
generally
did-
they have the
we passed
easement.
that last year, open streets.
Don, they're
ordinance,
on the radio and TV regularly, saying, hey, we're replacing all these lines, please be patient with us. But I don't know, I honestly don't know if there's a formality that they skipped, I doubt it, but we'll check into that.
Yeah, I'll look into the ordinance.
Maybe a year or two ago, they sent us a letter, all the residents, and said, are you interested in gas? And the rumor on the street, because I didn't hear it here, the rumor on the street was there were so few people wishing to participate that they decided not to put the gas line through Weber. As a result, I can tell you of a couple of neighbors who has recently made purchases, such as appliances or furnaces, that they might have made a different purchase, you know, if they knew gas was coming. I'm just saying.
I'm not sure we know about that. I'm not sure that we are in that loop.
I think under our open streets ordinance, they have to notify us. I think they have to apply to cut the road.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna check, but I don't think a utility has to come to us if they already have the right of way.
Are they cutting our pavement though? Are they on the side?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and they're.
Right
So
down
they're
there.
in our pavement,
Well, if they're,
our open
if
streets
they're in
ordinance.
our pavement, they're outside their easement,
Yeah, and
okay?
our open streets ordinance should come into
Right.
effect, which we just
At least for-
passed
at least
last
for that
year,
stretch.
so. I don't know what the notification process is on our open streets ordinance. If we don't have one, then we should have one. But, you know, we need to check on how they, if they did speak to the township or not. If they didn't, I'm very disappointed, because they definitely should have spoken to us before they started cutting the road.
I'll look at it more
Thank you.
formally, but I just did look it up. So it does appear that permit's required, so
Yeah,
we'll,
so then we need to send them a letter and say they're in violation of permit if they didn't notify us.
This is a handout, if you would pass it, please. It's regarding the Sunshine Act, regarding meetings, public meetings. I looked it up, section 708 discusses the executive sessions. And I understand, I don't need to know about personnel decisions or litigation. I understand that has to be kept private. But according to the Sunshine Act, you are supposed to at least announce the topic, what you're going to discuss, the specific reason. Okay.
That's good to know.
Well, no, we always say it's either personnel or litigation,
Yeah.
You know what's that?
but we can't say the detail.
No, I understand that.
It says the reasons stated by the publication must be specific, indicating a real discrete matter. I don't know how specific that is. That's up for debate.
Well, Chris, what is the specific?
we could, I've seen other people that honestly just quote the entire list of potential executive session topics when they go into executive. I would say a litigation matter would generally be discreet enough. We could identify broadly the litigation matter, but sometimes, depending on the circumstances, that may give away a strategy just by identifying what the litigation matter is. But I think we could do a little better than on that when appropriate.
And I think when we go into executive session to talk about Masonic litigation, we typically say that's what we're doing. But there are other situations where we might be looking at a potential litigation matter where the adverse party isn't aware of what we're contemplating, and we wouldn't want to let the cat out of the bag
No,
too
I
soon.
understand that. That part I understand that. All right, well, that's fine.
I can tell you, now I've been here as commissioner for 3 years and 9 months, and the Sunshine Act has come up probably 100 times to
Okay,
make sure that we are not violating that.
okay.
And in addition to that, you know, they've asked me to step out of the meeting because I would have been the third one.
Okay.
So it's very clearly enforced, and it's mentioned all the time.
All right, well, I appreciate what you all do.
No, I think this is, you're asking specifically to be advised as to as much detail of the topic as possible.
As much as the law requests.
So I think we have two attorneys generally present,
Yes,
and I think I will defer to them
okay.
to define what we can say as we enter
Yeah, I
executive
think
session.
Commissioner Adair said it best. We could be a little more specific, but there are certain circumstances where it has to be a little broader just because of the topic that's being discussed. But I think we can make an effort to make sure that that's always on the record. Because there may be circumstances, honestly, where depending on when the recording cuts out, but I think we do a pretty good job of doing that, but we'll keep it on the front of our mind.
Don, was there a specific issue or event?
No, it's just Came up in my reading.
Okay.
I said, "Wait, I don't even think we did that, so.
That's fine. And then I think the communications, maybe you weren't here or you didn't see it on YouTube, but we did say that Gwen will take responsibility for that now.
I totally missed that.
But I think at the same time, Commissioner Williams is correct, you can CC me anytime you want. And I'll now understand that even if I do respond to your satisfaction, we'll make it part of the public record.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, again, depending on what it is, if we don't want you to do that, we'll,
Good,
if that works for you.
good.
And it's also noted you can't hear because of our speakers.
I can't. I'm sorry, I can't.
Well, we can get some, check those.
Might help to turn them
If
on.
they're working, I can't hear them. I sit at home with my headphones on, I can hear everything, but in here, that's why I don't come sometimes, I just can't hear.
Well, don't be shy. If there's a conversation you're really interested in, tell us,
Oh, that'd
from
be-
the audience.
That'd be pretty awesome. So-
Please repeat. Please
And I-
Does anyone
repeat.
else have issues, you hear the speakers in the back of the line?
I don't believe they're on,
Oh,
but I
okay, well, we
don't
need to.
have the issue.
Dave says they're on.
Can
I
you check
tested
the
them
volume
before
on
the
this?
meeting started.
Okay, maybe the volume, Dave?
If you talk into the microphone closer, you'll hear the
Put the
speakers.
microphones,
They won't pick you up from 6 feet away.
6.
Well, if you're not standing in front of the mic.
Just so I'm not misleading anyone on the street opening, are we talking about next to the street, or are they actually cutting up the street?
In the middle of the street.
Yes.
They are cutting it, right? They haven't gotten to my house yet.
There's a steel plate in the
Okay.
middle of the road.
I mean, the only thing I can think is maybe Columbia Gas is not looking at our newest ordinance, maybe we don't have it up there readily available, they don't know, but we need to inform them, they need to come back and get the permit, and it's probably, maybe too late to do notification, but they should have, and maybe it's an oversight, but, you know, we could let it go this time, but they at least need to apply for the permit, so that there is an issue with damage to our road and them not repairing the patch, then we still have grounds in our open street ordinance to go forward and make sure they do it properly.
Okay.
Art Capuzzi, Weber Road. I am incensed about this gas line. When you noticed us in the meeting, when you told us in the meeting it was gonna happen, I inquired the next day about if they were in compliance. I was told specifically they had all the permits, the engineering was all submitted, and our township ordinance specifically says that they're supposed to submit to you a work project of what they're going to do. They are going down the middle of the road. They're digging the road up. It is not an existing line, it's a brand new line. So I don't believe that a utility is going to call you Monday morning and say, oh, we're going to be digging tomorrow. I don't see where they have that leeway. It just doesn't make sense.
Art, who told you everything was in
Well-
compliance? No, don't worry about, there's no problem here.
It came from within this building. It came from within this building.
Ben, can you give any insight?
So it probably is a new line in the sense the old line is steel. So you're seeing a new
There isn't
line.
any
We
line.
don't have gas, we don't have gas.
So Columbia Gas is replacing lines, whether it's new or not, I'm not sure. They had submitted a copy of a permit that they received from the state to do work. We did review that. Whether or not they're in compliance with the road opening ordinance, I would have to defer that to Gwen, because it's been months. But in my experience, Columbia Gas has been excellent to deal with, and they have taken care of the roads everywhere they have gone. So the majority of work that my experience with them is repair. They have a bunch of steel lines. They're required by the Public Utility Commission to replace them. They're having issues that some of them are beyond repair, and they cannot provide gas service so people can heat their homes because there's too many defects in the line and they're not repairable. So I think you're seeing some of that. The area in Weber, whether that is new or not, I can't answer that, but I can reach out to my contacts at Columbia Gas and get you guys some answers to see what's going on, if that's what you'd like.
Well, the answer is, they're new lines. They're not replacing anything. We've never had gas. I've been up here for 30 years. We've never had any type of gas. Fuel oil and electric appliances in the way of stoves and ovens. And I just don't understand how a utility can come in and dig up your road. I'm not arguing the fact with Ben about repairs. They did Glenn Mitchell. They did an excellent job of replacing. They milled it down, paved down everything that they did. But we have congestion there now. We have cars trying to get by backhoes that are picking up lines and taking them up the hill. I understand all that has to happen. I just still don't understand how they can dig up the road without, hey, you know, they didn't get up one morning and say, oh, by the way, we ought to go up Weber Road and put a gas line in. And I also heard that part of that has to do with the new condominiums up at the top of the hill. He wanted gas. So something went on that they decided to run the gas up. But we were told we weren't getting gas. We went down there and they were capping at Glenn Mitchell and said, we're not going up Weber.
You were told by the contractor.
Well, by a gas representative. Yes. Now, I don't take much for, you know, don't believe anything you read. Sometimes I don't believe what I hear. To me, I can tell when people are just like trying to blow something over your head. I felt in that case he was sincere, because they were capping the line in a manner that it didn't look like they were going to proceed up there. Now, where they get the gas from, I don't know, but they're coming down the road. There isn't any question they're coming down the road, not an easement. They're coming down the road.
So Ben, are we aware of any other area where they're going to replace or install new lines?
No, not at this time. Gwen has asked me to reach out to the utilities on an annual basis to get a planning level of where do you plan to do work. I think this may be part of that, but Columbia Gas was one to just try to get ahead of it. I think in coordination with the roadway management plan and just general information. So.
And when were we made aware of McCoy?
I want to say late last year, early this year.
Okay. I mean, Art, I do know that they came and talked about using the future park area as a staging area.
Yes, you mentioned that.
We had certain conditions.
Yes.
They didn't accept those conditions.
And you expressed the conditions.
So.
And I understand. I'm just, again, they have a state permit. They don't have to do anything with the municipality.
Oh, we're going to check that.
Well,
They're halfway down the road.
Yeah, I can't believe they didn't notify someone here, but they may have not, or they may have, and it somehow, they, you know,
Or the
didn't do a
state
proper
permit, the state
notification
permit,
process.
to a certain extent, may preempt any local permits.
Fine, but did they come by and say, we're gonna dig up your road? And Ben's right, they're gonna replace it, fine. I guess my gripe is we are out of the loop with information there. There could have been an easier way to let us know that it was coming. And I promised myself I wasn't going to get up here, but it seems like that this issue is being passed over. The helicopter caused panic. For better than a half an hour, it was making low passes. I called your department not 911, your whatever line that is. I ended up at the county 911.
reverse
They
911.
said no one was in, it gets forwarded to you. That's fine. They didn't have any idea what I was talking about.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Art, but I don't remember this incident. I wasn't aware of it, so I couldn't even help you on that. I just,
Well, when I inquired, I guess the township was notified that at some time they would be doing this, and it was many weeks previous to when it happened. And
She doesn't understand what happened.
no, I
You
don't.
don't-
Oh, all right. There was a red unmarked helicopter making very low passes over the homes a number of times. It would go back, forth, back and forth, back and forth, then it would disappear, then it would be back. And this went on for a half hour to 40
At least.
minutes. And then, as Dawn said, we found out later that they were putting packets out to either treat rabies in the animals, something that they had done in the past by hand. They would come by, they would put them out, and then they would mark either where they were in the openings or whatever. We find out later, they're just flipping these things out of the helicopter. Now, I don't know, they weren't just flipping them out, but we don't know where they were put.
No, Art, I know the incident. I was out on a walk on a rock ledge. They flew over my head 3 times, and I was curious myself. So
Okay.
I think the real key here is, how are we notified? Are we required to be notified in both situations? And that's something that we can look at, because at the meeting last week that you didn't attend, we did discuss how we could put things on our website if we knew. But the question is, was there a requirement for them to tell us about the red helicopter? Is there a requirement for certain aspects of Columbia Gas? That's what we'll check into.
Thank you.
Good point, sorry. Back to the discussion of the budget, what I had on my, just off the top of my head, was zoning, the park that Dawn had done the survey for, the traffic calming on Weber and McCoy, whether we do with those signs or painting, Rhodes Avenue, the repairs, and now this drainage issue along Deer Run Road. Those are the things that come to mind right away. I just think those are things we should flag for our budget, and obviously the priority is going to probably be roads and this drainage issue, and then we'll have to go down the line and see what we can fit in our budget for next year. Does anyone else have ideas on the budget?
Yes?
Okay. Anything I missed?
No, I think the first step is we're reviewing the audit to determine how we did last year. There's one fairly substantial question. And then we're always interested, and we've announced this, that we're trying to build up reserves for roads.
Yep.
Not RH, but
No, I'm sorry. I would
ROADS.
also add to that the chipping and pouring of Weber and McCoy
Right.
to that list.
And that's
So,
part of our discussion with HRG every year.
anything else? Ben, good,
I think the zoning, which you covered already.
yeah.
Any other citizen
I guess
participation?
I would
Oh.
I'd also add whether, pose the question of whether there's a future significant expense required for some aspect of the sewage system or the sewage treatment plant, whether that is a township budget issue or is that an authority budget issue?
Okay.
Don, did you hear that? Suffice it to say, the sewer is an ongoing issue. You're certainly aware of litigation, and you may not be aware that there are conversations in Sewickley to perhaps move all of the wastewater to Leetsdale. And there's also an option where there might be substantial expense involved in upgrading Swickley's treatment plant. So we're preparing for that.
Thank you.
Chris, did you have something to say about reverse 911, et cetera?
Oh, I was just going to mention that may be a possibility.
Talk to Don.
We have a reverse 911 system, correct? That may be a possibility to utilize that more often to if there is an issue that we just became aware of that wasn't previously announced, to maybe address some of the issues of the residents.
Yeah, I remember when that was first discussed a while back, a couple of years ago maybe.
It took a while to get into place, and I think we had all the landlines, then there was another issue, we had to deal with the cell phones, et cetera, but I think, again, just to sum it up, the first question in my mind, since the helicopter flew over my head, I had no idea,
Right.
is how we are better able to receive that information before you do.
Yeah,
I'm not sure that that's really the case. But we did discuss at the last meeting that when we do know, then how do we get it to you? And the first thing is the webpage, and now Chris is saying that in a true emergency, I don't know the exact detail on how complete it is, but we have worked on, and I think it's in place, reverse 911, which is pretty unique.
yeah.
Chief, have you heard anything about the Department of Defense doing some operational
Yeah, Pittsburgh.
That's
in the
tonight.
Pittsburgh area?
I have.
Is there anything that the public here in Aleppo should be aware of?
I don't think there's anything locally here. I am aware of some training that is taking place, but to my knowledge, it's not close to Aleppo Township.
Any other citizen participation?
I was just gonna say regarding public, notification, and I'd mentioned before about keeping a to-do list of things we're working on. We haven't really implemented that yet, but I would like to see that actually posted where we say what we're working on, what's coming up. We can add a bulletin board for notifications as well as use our website. And we could also post some of our engineering plans out in the lobby. If we're gonna do a repaving, we should be posting those engineering plans where anyone walking in, if they wanna see them, they come and look at them on a bulletin board. I think that would be a great way to keep people involved. If they can't see it when they're in a meeting, they wanna walk in, they can look at it, and all that's there, and they can track things that we're doing and see if we're making progress. They can ask questions. And we can put an update in a column on a spreadsheet that says where we are on this, why we're not doing, or why we're doing, or if it got stopped, or, whatever the issue was. I think that's a good way to keep the public informed as well as our websites and things.
You do that in conjunction with the website?
Well, that's what I would like to see. I had suggested that the spreadsheet before, I had suggested posting some of our plans when we do road projects up so that people would be able to come and look at the plan and comment on them. We haven't really been doing that, but I would like to see that, so that's just my 2 cents on that matter.
Well, you and Gwen started that discussion?
We did talk about the spreadsheet. I had mentioned before about putting up plans, like getting HRG to post a plan in the entrance there for anyone that came in, that if they wanted to see. Like when we were doing Swickley Heights Drive, like showing where the islands were going to be cut, I asked that they put something up. Ended up taping it up myself, but I think that would be a good way to keep people informed, about things, so no one's caught off guard.
Well, I think the roads could be pretty easily done because we know in December what roads we're gonna do the next year, number one. Number two, when we had an emergency repair on roads, so to speak, every household got a letter.
Yeah, but anyway, there's different ways
Good.
to handle things, and I just think we could also use our entrance way for posting things and putting up progress, just a quick progress report on what we're working on.
We have I'm sorry.
Oh, well, we still have new business.
I know.
Okay, go ahead.
We have no executive session tonight, but we do have an important announcement that Commissioner Duplago will address.
First of all, I am sorry to inform everybody here tonight, but I am resigning as of tonight from the township, from my commission, due to a conflict. I've taken a job with the state in the civil service, and under the Civil Service Reform Act, I cannot hold an elected office. So I thought they would give me opportunity to serve my term, but there seems to be some dispute within the agency, and so to make things easier for everybody, I'm just going to resign at the end of this meeting tonight. But I really want to say my thanks to everyone I've served on the board with. Art, your great engineering background. George, your great fiscal insight. Dan, your great legal advice. Chris, your great legal advice. Matt isn't here, but I would also like to thank Matt, and Amy, welcome. I did get to serve with you, but I know you're going to add a lot to the commission. And I'd like to thank everyone within Public Works, our Water and Sewage Authority, our ambulance service, our fire department, emergency management, our police department, Public Works, the township staff, solicitors, as well as our residents for staying involved, because I think you're the biggest part of this community operating well when you had raised concerns. And I'm really appreciative of the residents that come out and speak, and all the ones that watch our YouTube videos and give input and help us run this local government. So thank you, everybody, and I will be coming to meetings though and trying to stay involved on Matt's side. I'll be sitting next to Art probably, so.
So I told her we're not gonna let her go. She'll sit in the audience and she can yell at us. It'll be okay. But all of the things that she has not been able to accomplish, we are going to keep on the docket. Now, Chris, you haven't submitted a formal in-writing resignation,
Yes, I need a letter from the
but
commission.
have you
saying-
submitted a formal one? Does she have to submit a formal letter?
I don't believe so, but we have 45 days to accept the resignation then.
Can you get me some this week?
Because of the situation,
Yeah.
I told Michelle that we would take the vote tonight.
Okay. Yeah, I think that your resignation here is acceptable then for that purpose, so we can take the vote.
So I hear a motion to accept Commissioner Duplaga's resignation, effective September 16th.
With regret, so moved.
Second.
Any further discussion?
No.
So approved. And,
Further discussion. I
oh,
want to
vote,
thank
all
you
in favor?
for your
Oh,
service. You've done a great job.
Thanks, everybody.
all in favor with regrets?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
So, thank you. I told her she didn't give me any time to throw a party. We thought she was gonna serve till the end of the year, but
Yeah, sorry. Things were confusing.
Yeah, it's probably not too nice to throw a party and not have her show up.
Hey, a party's a party.
any other citizen participation? Meeting adjourned.
We've been working out of the building down there.